watching News 24 Live. Welcome to our very first 2015 Rugby World Cup show, where we will be bringing you, for the duration of the tournament, the latest news, reviews and previews from the event in England. Sport 24 editor Garen Lamley and Rob Howing will be attending the event at various stages, but while they're still here, we've got them in studio to look ahead at the opening weekend. Gents, good morning and thank you very much for coming in.
Morning, Nick.
Like I said, we're going to utilize your insight while you're still here. Rob, you going for the pool stages, and then Garen, you going for the quarterfinals, semi-finals and finals. Hopefully the Springboks will feature in all of those or some of those. Rob, I'm going to start with you. Heineke Meyer announced the Springbok side yesterday to face Japan in their opening clash on Saturday. Many surprised by the amount of experience in the team, a very much a full-strength side. Were you equally surprised by that?
I was only surprised on well, let's say two fronts perhaps. Most of the team I thought seemed to make sort of a bit of sense, especially some of the selections in the pack, where you've got the sort of the old Sharks firm, although they've now been broken up, Beast and the two Duplessis brothers, Victor Matfield as the number 5, the main number 5 lock. We knew that Eben Etzebeth was very unlikely to play in this game, so it made perfect sense for Loet de Jager, who's been probably the form Springbok forward in a problematic test season up to now in the second row, so he fully deserves his spot. Francois Lowe, of course, one of those first choices being filtered back in alongside Willem Alberts and with Skalkberger, because Dwayne Vermeulen clearly still being cocooned for a little bit longer, not going to play that game against Japan, which is obviously the Boks are expecting clearly to win it with some comfort, and I think to shield Vermeulen for introduction in the two tougher games to come against Samoa and Scotland. So the pack didn't surprise me at all. In the back line, I was surprised by two, and that was Willie le Roux and JP Peterson getting the shaft. That was a little bit unexpected to me. I still thought Willie le Roux would be the first choice fullback. He has been the first choice fullback for Heineke Meyer for most of the last couple of seasons. We know the sort of X factor that he brings, and I did think that against a team like Japan, where the Boks clearly are going to be under some pressure to score a few tries, that he seemed a perfect guy to be introduced. It's not as though the conditions look as though they're going to be pretty awful. The conditions, from the reports I'm looking at, the weather forecast, it looks as though it's going to be a nice day in Brighton on Saturday, even though the lead-up period hasn't been so great. So dry and firm conditions. I would have thought Willie le Roux sort of territory, and he's not even in the match day squad. So that did surprise me. Similarly, JP Peterson not making it. I thought that he, Brian Habana and Willie le Roux would be the back three, but Heineke Meyer has given a nod to the back three, who I must say did play very well in the last test against Argentina in Buenos Aires. And in some ways, Zane Kirshner playing in the Northern Hemisphere, starting out, not the worst thing. By all accounts, he has kind of matured as a person quite a lot in his time in Ireland. So let's see how he goes. Interesting chance to see whether he has actually evolved his game a little bit, and perhaps Japan, a nice sort of, hopefully a relaxed sort of environment for him to perhaps come into his own as somebody who intrudes a little bit into the back line.
Garen, another omission which has surprised fans is Damien Delendi, not even in the matchday 23 at all. I suppose again this it just poses this midfield conundrum that the Boks are probably going to have throughout the World Cup, trying to include Jean de Villiers because of his captaincy and his leadership, but then you've got these two talented young centres in Delendi and Jesse Kriel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. Heineke Meyer is on record as saying all 31 players are fabulous players, deserve to be there, but you obviously have a couple of more players than positions, if you like. So Jean de Villiers hasn't played a lot of rugby. He's the captain. It made more sense for him to go and actually play rather than just sort of sit on the bench. Something had to give. He's gone for Jesse Kriel ahead of Damien Delendi. For me, much of a muchness. Kriel obviously can play a little bit at fullback as well. Where, as Rob mentioned, we've got this Zane Kirshner, but no Willie le Roux on the bench. I'm not too sure what happens there. If Zane's not having a great day, does that mean Patrick Lambie perhaps goes to fullback, or does Jesse Kriel go to fullback? There are options, but then at the same time, it sort of disrupts the mix as well. So it's always going to, it's the same for every coach. Every team has got more players than positions. They're going to pick up injuries. They're going to have players not playing well, being pinged at the scrum time, ref not liking what you're doing on the day. You're going to have to yank the player at half time, and it's going to disrupt everything. At the end of the day, it is Japan. We are going to win this game fairly comfortably, no matter what. for me, the danger is always if Zane Kirshner, say, has a blinder, and that's the word that I think Heineke may used for his performance against Argentina in Buenos Aires. If he has a blinder, there's no reason to drop him for the next game. And then if he plays well there, there's no reason to drop him for the next game. And if we potentially go out in the quarterfinals, you'll have some players that won't play a game. Really, Page, I'm not too sure if he even gets a game. If Zane Kirshner, as I said, plays really well, I don't see why you would need to bring a Willie Leroux in. He can only pretty much play fullback. Zane Kirshner has played on the wing as well. He's got probably a little bit more versatility. We know Heineke is a massive Zane Kirshner fan. He plays in the Northern Hemisphere. He's used to the conditions. He's probably got a few more ticks, behind his name than a Willie Leroux. At the same time, Heineke is also a massive Andre Pollard fan, so it's interesting to see that he went with old Pat Lambie. But Pat Lambie played really well against Argentina in the last match. So again, if he plays well again, there's no reason to chop and change at Flav. So there'll be some players that will come back that we would have thought would be in the starting 15 that actually aren't going to get much game time at all, especially if we get knocked out in that quarterfinal match.